Heritage Plant Documentation, a growing seed saver project video. In the project participated the Danish Seed Saver organization Frøsamlerne, Lithuanian Institute of Natural Agriculture, Latvian Permaculture Association, and organization Maadjas from Estonia. In this presentation, we are going to take a look at different kinds of old heritage plants and what kind of plants have been found when there have been made garden inventories and expeditions. Let's start with Denmark and with the Danish grey pea that is named raisins from Lolland. Grey peas belong to a common type of drying peas grown in the field and used for cooking in Denmark since the Bronze Age. Raisins from Lolland were commonly grown in the southern part of Denmark on the fertile islands of Lolland and Falster. We find them described in literature back to the 1650s. They were famous for their good taste. They were dried and stored as a protein-rich staple food for the winter season, before potatoes came common. Field cultivation of grey peas ceased in the beginning of the 20th century, but was continued for household use by crofters. Paul Hoff Olsen from Vestre Ulslev at Lolland was interested in the food culture of the past and got a handful of growing from a small farmer on Lolland. Some years later, the peas came to Tina Hansen, a biodynamic farmer. Tina gave the peas to the Danish Seed Savers, who now take care of them. Furthermore, they are stored in the Nordic Gene Resource Center. Raisins from Lolland have red-violet flowers and grow 80 to 150 centimeters in height. The seeds are wrinkled and brown like raisins. Nowadays, they are becoming popular as a local source of legumes for high-quality proteins foods such as hummus. The Danish Seed Saver organization did also make a garden inventory, and they visited the village Dairet. Here you can see an old vine in front of an uninhabited house in Dairet village. They did also look for plants in the fallow of Dairet. And it is quite common to find plants that have escaped from gardens in among natural plants that may be growing on roadsides or other extensively used areas. So it's really a good idea to take a look in uncultivated, close to gardens and fields areas, because there you may find something. And here you can see apple trees in a farm garden in Dairet. The Danish Seed Saver organization did also write an article afterwards about the experience they got from the garden inventories undertaken. The Latvians were doing several garden inventories and were writing also articles and asking people to tell if they have old plants and telling them about the importance of keeping heritage plants. Let's start here from Kurseme in Latvia, in Gramsta, and on this first picture you can see an old gooseberry bush. To the left you can see a gladiolus, and this particular one is easy to grow and healthy. The gardener Skydra received these gladiolus from her friend from Malta parish in Latgale more than 30 years. To the right we have Chana Melas. It is a shrub. It is related to quince. This Cudonian exemplar have been growing more than 35 years in the garden visited. And these Cudonias can be chopped and put in glasses together with, for example, sugar. And then it becomes juicy, and you can use it wintertime as a sweetener or instead of lemon in tea. Inguna's father was an agronomist, and he made notes about the varieties of trees in the garden. And to the left you can see a wonderful 2-page of this notebook with this garden plan, and it's describing so well how the garden have been changing and living. You can see there are trees that have been moving and new varieties that have entered the garden. To the left you have a garden pea, and this gets 80 centimeters high. It has huge pods, and the fresh peas have a sweet taste. And this one have been grown more than 80 years in Gramsda. And to the right you have the seeds of a large cucumber with orange flesh. Dinah keeps a farm very rich in heritage plants. She has also animals, chicken, ducks, and Latvian Blue Cow. The Latvian Blue Cow is a landrace in Latvia. To the left you can see her keeping an early low garden pea that she has been keeping for more than 40 years. And to the right there are some old type of dahlias. Here is a photo of potato onions from Nigande in Kurzeme. And these are very special in the color. You can see they are dark brownish or reddish. Many potato onions are yellow or yellow green or yellow red in their shell, but these potato onions here are very nice, having this uniform dark red color. Let's then take a closer look at this old black currant. It is called Anna's black currant bush, and it's from Aglona. During the Latvian heirloom plant expedition in Latgale, they met Anna Glusina. She was 90 years old. She showed a blackcurrant bush and told them the story that it goes way back. This blackcurrant was grown in Anna's home garden for more than 80 years. It is a heritage from her husband's parents who planted the bush. For generations, picking the largest berries straight from the bush was the favorite way of enjoying the blackcurrant fruits for both grown-ups and kids. The berries are especially large and sweet, and the bush itself is healthy. The berries get ripe almost simultaneously and grow to a diameter of 5 to 7 millimeters. When overripe, the berries fall off. The best feature of this blackcurrant is its long lifetime. Berries can be pressed for juice, or then the leftover pulp can be boiled as a drink so that nothing goes to waste. The juice can also be pressed using a steam juicer. If sugar is added, it can be stored for winter and then used, for example, in drinks, jellies, marmalade, or cakes. And of course, you can make also traditional jam out of them. And you can also nowadays put the berries in the deep freezer and later then prepare them for different kinds of foods, for example, cocktails, ice creams, or just enjoy them. Here you can see a runner bean. It's from Latgale also. And the story is that when Saiga's daughter was at the fourth grade in school, she brought 4 beans home. And that was more than 40 years ago. And several years in between, they stopped growing them because the lack of sticks, but now they have been growing them all the time again. On this picture, you can see Valentina, an experienced gardener in Latgale, and different kinds of we have a pea here and some garden beans and also a broad bean up in the left corner. In this garden we found a cucumber more than 50 years old dill, 3 types of potato onions, summer garlic and bush beans, and it was in Ambeli, in municipal in Daugavpils region. And here you can see a photo of the potato onions in Ambeli. And you can see now that there are also different colors, that the one to the left, it is more brownish reddish, and then the photo to the right, it is more yellow. Let's then continue to Riga district, Pieriga, and here we have a grower who are growing a lot of lilies. And here you can see the huge field with lilies and some seed savers enjoying them. Garden inventories made, seed savers to the right. And here we have apples, and these apples have traditionally from Dole Island were brought by boat to Riga. So let's continue with Lithuania. And the first picture we have from Lithuania is a huge turnip, and its name is Vilnius turnip. In 2017, the seed saver Rasa was looking around in the Harles market in Vilnius Old Town when she noticed that there was something very interesting. She approached the seller and asked that how much is it for the rutabaga. The seller answered, "It's not a rutabaga, it's a turnip." Rasa started to speak with them and discovered that they had got this turnip variety from their neighbors who are growing it in Vilnius district. And she learned also that they have kept this variety in the family since the interwar period, more than 80 years. What strikes you is the immense size of this turnip, which can weigh up to 1 kilo. Its shape varies from a typical flat turnip shape to more oval or slightly elongated form. The skin is orange yellowish and turning into greenish on the above ground part, and the growth period is around 70 to 80 days, and the vegetable does not turn tough or woody, or it doesn't either form fibers. It has yellow colored flesh, and it's very crunchy when you eat it raw, and it has a creamy consistency when boiled, and it has an excellent taste qualities. It keeps also very well until the springtime. And during the winter 2019 to 20, it overwintered outdoors. The above ground part is characteristic for a turnip and its cultivation. The turnips prefer full sun and rich sandy loams fertilized with ash, but this particular turnip is not too demanding with regard to the soil type. Like other turnips, it prefers cooler and wetter conditions, and it's best sown in late June for autumn harvest in Lithuania. Then we have some nice tomatoes here. They are Lithuanian winter tomatoes, which really are preserved very long, so they had this as a very good characteristics. Here you can see some photos from an expedition in Valkeninka in Usperkasis in October 2019 in Lithuania. And here from expedition in Tiltai village, pumpkins and squash, also in October 2019. And let's continue with apples. Here you have an exceptional large unknown apple variety, and it is guessed that it is Gascogne Scarlet. Here are some tasting and identification session, and you have some peach apple below. And here you can see preparing for grafting of old apple varieties in the spring. So let's continue with Estonia. On this photo you can see Selma, and in her family they have preserved an old turnip. It was given from mother to daughter for more than 100 years old at Saaremaa Island. And they even knew that for more than 100 years there had been a guest house in the family, and that it had been used also there, this turnip. It is reddish in color, and nowadays it is then Selma's daughter who is working and taking care of this growing of this turnip. And to the left you have two Estonian seed savers. It's also important to talk about gardens and gardening, and about traditions, and about how people have been taking care of their gardens. And here is a garden talk at Saaremaa, and all the stories about gardening brings a lot of memories up for people. And even if it is said that, and truly it is, that the garden is it is living and dying with the gardener. So when a gardener is aging, then the garden is also changing, because you don't have the strength and to take care of the garden in the same way necessarily as it was in the beginning. So when doing garden inventories, it's extremely important that you bring with you pencil and paper, and that you write down the stories that are told for you. And if some seeds are distributed and given to you, then it's good to have a seed paper bag with you, and a pen and pencil always, to write down immediately then what kind of seeds it is, and the name of the plants if the older owners have had used some old type of names. Here we can see a carrot flower with seeds. An old woman had been growing a carrot for more than 40 years and always made own seeds in South Estonia. And she brought her last carrot to a seed saver and asked them to make seeds so that it could be preserved. Here you have an example again on how from mother to daughter some seeds have been transferred. And the grandmother's peat has a very good taste, and it's now very wanted and popular in Estonia. Harda had preserved her mother's Highgarden bean. It's a waxed bean, and it has been named after her mother's home municipal, Vandra. And Harda herself then did not, in her working life, live in this region. So when we found it in a totally different place in Estonia. It has slightly light rosa red colored flowers and black seeds. And here a photo from the garden inventory occasion. Ellen again, she had been keeping a low yellow garden bean, and it was saved at Kruusiauku farm in Väike-Maarja parish in Lääne-Virumaa. And the seeds, they are going from light colors through different kinds of blue nuances into black when it's ripening. Gerda's broad bean, or Vormsi broad bean, also called, it's a broad bean that has different colors in the seeds, and this goes back to the 1940s. At that time, it was brought by a woman from the mainland Estonia out to Vormsi Island, and Gerda had got it then and been keeping them growing since that time. Here we have Aunt Nømme. She was a chef in a school kitchen, and she had been keeping a bean that makes no fibers. It's a good bean for to eat during the whole summer, like cooking it with the pods and everything. And you can put it also into the deep freezer, and afterwards you can fry it on a pan. And this bean was saved because she gave it to the wife of a young teacher in the school. And when she gave it, she said that keep this bean, it's a very good bean. The seeds are light reddish and white. They look like small candies. Here we have a winter garlic that is very healthy and steadily growing. This winter garlic was growing for nearly 10 years alone in a garden with no gardener taking care of it. So it was dropping its small garlic tubes on the soil and just kept on growing in the lawn. And here we have an Estonian all-believer who grows potato onions. These Peipsi potato onions are very famous in Estonia, and they are also geographically marked due to these EU procedures, so that you can call them Peipsi potato onions only if they are grown in their original cultural context. And they are grown on high beds, which are totally handmade beds. There is not any machinery used in the cultivation of Peipsi potato onions. And in Estonia, potato onions is being grown from seeds. so not from onion to onion, but in a circle of 3 or 4 years, and always then producing new seeds in between. In the Growing Seed Saver project, we made plant documentation forms and examples on how these garden inventories could be carried out. And after that, we were compiling a guide to making heritage plant inventories. And this guide is in 5 different languages. It contains then advice on what kind of questions you should ask when you do garden inventories, and also 4 different plant examples with their stories. During the project, then there was also developed a database, and here was developed a form, suggestion old plants. So if people have an old plant, they could inform the seed saving organizations about this plant, and after that we could contact them and make then more documentation of the plants that they have. And the plants that have been found in the seed saver organizations, they are being put into a database, which also was developed in this project. The Growing Seed Savers Baltic-Nordic Seed Savers Education Innovation was founded by the Nordic Council of Ministers program NORDPLUS. The video content does not necessarily reflect the Nordic Council of Ministers' views, opinions, attitudes, or recommendations.